Talking About Marketing is a podcast for business owners and leaders, produced by Steve Davis and David Olney of Talked About Marketing. More than 8,000 conversations have taught them something. You can't read the label from inside the bottle. Everyone needs external perspective. Through their 4 Ps: person, principles, problems, and perspicacity. Yes, you heard that correctly. They explore marketing with curiosity, generosity, and the occasional gentle eye roll. They hope this becomes a trusted companion on your journey in business.
David.
Steve.
Are you Australian? And if so, how do you justify that claim?
I am Australian. All my relatives arrived after World War II. So I sometimes look back at Australia's history and go, wow, Indigenous people have been here thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and lots of people have had family here since some point in the 19th century. And yet, because I don't know anything else, despite the fact my family hasn't been here long, to me it feels very easy to be Australian.
Okay, that was a longer answer than I was anticipating, but it seems fine. There is something that just does feel home about the landscape we have here to me, and that is probably purely a function of it being the landscape I have seen for the majority of my life. There's acclimatisation.
Yeah, whereas I think what I'm really talking about is the human terrain of Australia is what makes me feel at home. Again, heat is heat, cold is cold. Dry heat's dry heat. We know all about that in Adelaide. But really, the laid-back attitude, the kind of complain about everything but get on with it-ness of Australia. And that at our best, we just keep including people, and then they become part of us. And then we include some more people, and they become part of us. And we change, and that's nice to change, because it stops things getting boring.
Well, I'm going to mix things up now, and we'll start the episode proper.
Our 4 Ps. Number 1, person. These are insights for the whole person, not just the business operator. Oscar Wilde put it this way: the aim of life is self-development, to realise one's nature perfectly. That's what each of us is here for.
We'll all be ruined, said Hanrahan.
I'm giggling, but I'm not sure how I'm meant to respond.
It's probably one line of Australian poetry that when anyone says Australian poetry to me, I always remember that one because it really captures that spirit of living on the land as a farming family, and we'll all be ruined either because it is raining, because it's not raining,
or because it rained at the wrong time. Yeah. That's the one I remember from my farming childhood. Childhood on a farm. We're
heading into this territory because in the person segment, we think there's something interesting to pick up from the Henry Lawson poem. So changing gears now to a Henry Lawson poem that our Premier here in South Australia quoted on the election night. So this is a poem called The Duty of Australians. And we thought for the person segment, there's a few things we can pick from this that apply to us as we live and breathe as fellow Australians running businesses here in this community. Should we have, actually, let's have a little listen to the Premier reading a couple of these verses.
"'Tis the duty of Australians in the bush and in the town to forever praise their country, but to run no other down. When a man or nation visits in the heyday of its pride, 'tis the duty of Australians to be kind but dignified. 'Tis our duty to the stranger, landed may be, but an hour to give all the information and assistance in our power, to give audience to the new chum and to let the old chums wait, lest his memory be embittered by his first days in the state. 'Tis our duty when he's foreign and his English very young to find out and take him somewhere where he'll hear his native tongue, to give him our last spare moment and our pleasure to defer. He'll be father of Australians as our foreign fathers were.
All right, when I first heard this, David, there was one line that did resonate with me because I moved to Hungary many years ago and lived there for two or 3 years thereabouts. And there's a line in this poem that says, when someone arrives, they're foreign, their English is young, find out and take him somewhere where he'll hear his native tongue. Now, there are going to be some people going, no, don't do that. We want everyone to assimilate. I was ready to assimilate when I moved to Hungary, but you can't assimilate until you have language.
Not into Hungarian, you can't.
No. And finding other expats who spoke English, and of course, luckily, most Hungarians are
Quadlingual. Yeah.
Quadlingual.
Yeah.
And that was a blessing in disguise. But being able just to talk where there are common assumptions was a beautiful thing, with the hope being that the longer I stay there, the more I get to become part of society. Do you think that's what Henry Lawson's referring to here?
I think that's a very big part of it. My real takeaway from it, from so many years of teaching young people who'd only been here for short periods of time often, was if we build an inclusive space and we give people a sense of safety, then they start talking and engaging and becoming part of what's going on. And then Australia becomes bigger and better. And it works on a national level. It works on the level of a classroom in a university. And to make it relevant for this podcast, the best businesses are the ones with inclusive cultures that make people feel safe. And you don't make people feel safe by telling them they're going to be safe. You make people safe by acknowledging who they are and making space for them. Because when you do that, they want to reciprocate and they want to join in and they want to connect and they want to make space for you and other people. And the virtuous circle of a good culture that includes people and builds safety is the fastest way to up productivity, the fastest way to put great behaviour in front of customers, and all those things are the fastest way to making more money in hard times.
So when you say this inclusiveness, are you referring to the people you hire, or are you talking about the customers that you try to get?
If you can't or won't do it for the people you hire, then when you attempt to do it for customers, you'll look like a hypocrite. Because if you're waffling niceness and your staff look miserable, every customer notices. It's that old line, don't pay attention to how your date treats you, pay attention to how your date treats the serving staff.
Yeah. That's good. I'm trying to be a little bit devil's advocate to get this down to the realms of pragmatism, because the initial reaction is it's going to be harder and things might be slower as you're trying to integrate someone with different worldview, different experience into your world. Do you acknowledge that?
That is absolutely true. So we've always got two alternatives. We can try and make the world around us just like us in our comfort zone and crush everyone out of shape and have a tiny world that just reflects us. Or we can go a little bit slower and work a little bit harder and find that our world just keeps on growing and in ways we can't predict. They really are the choices.
But you're arguing, and I agree with you, and in fact a lot of literature points to this, that when you have diversity in your workplace, and I know Donald Trump would vomit at that point, but I'm talking about grounded diversity, not ultra theoretical diversity. It's just diverse, just different opinions. Your business does have more robustness and deeper resources to draw from for tackling problems because you've got different heads around the table.
Yep.
So from a person perspective, this poem is something not to shy away from. And I think you're arguing there's a model there. That's not a small thing to do, to live this.
But do you want to live in a small world? Because if you want to live in a small world, everything eventually becomes a threat to it because you've put up barriers and you've demanded that things be similar to you and your experience from yesterday. You're cutting yourself off from tomorrow and all the opportunities that come with it if you're not afraid. And if you've got people to help you bridge the gap from here to there.
There is one thing that makes it harder now than it used to be. So even back in the days when I went to Hungary, which was early 90s, we didn't have smartphones and therefore no social media. When waves of different immigrants came to Australia after us, there wasn't much to do other than a few TV stations. So people would talk over the back fence and you'd get... And once you get talking to someone and you've shared a meal or something, the difference starts diminishing. But you don't have to now. You can live in your own cocoon, your own world. So I think it is a bit harder now. And it probably is why there are many people who are worried that enclaves of certain cultures, of any culture, gather that feel impenetrable to those of us who have been here a long time. So all I'm saying is there is somehow a way that we need to find to be deliberate about cracking into those habits and those patterns to try and get mutual awareness happening again. I can't see us getting through this and having people join our melting pot until we've worked that out. And maybe you start in the square metre where you're living or working.
And work is, in some ways, the ideal place to do it. Because at work, everyone's on good behaviour because everyone needs to earn money and everyone needs the customers to come back. So in some ways, connecting at work is easier than connecting randomly over the back fence. Because at work, we know why we're there. We know what the purpose is. We know who the customer is. We know who the boss is. In real terms, we've got more in common at work than we have in social settings.
Wow. So maybe work-life balance is correct to have work as the first word in that phrase.
Yep, hadn't thought about that before, but I think there's some serious truth to that in the world as we're living it.
And we better hurry up before AI takes that work away.
Yep.
And that's when we will need to band together as fellow humans to fight back.
Fight the machine.
Our 4 Ps. Number 2, principles. These are ideas worth building on. As Oscar Wilde reminded us, you can never be overdressed or overeducated.
David, do you think you could be amused too much?
Yes.
How? Why?
There's times where I've tried to sit and listen to those very long Billy Connolly kind of a gag every 30 seconds for 3 hours kind of recordings of performances from the early 90s. And at a certain point, I just get fatigued by the gags and the fact that it's like, yeah, that's funny and it was funny, but now I'm starting to see the pattern of how you're setting it up and it stopped being funny.
So you're dead right. What you're doing is you're saying there is such a thing as too much of a good thing.
I think so.
And I think we've talked about that before. And someone had a book that looked at when your body releases endorphins, when you have to work hard for something and you get it, you go, whereas if you just have to pop a block of chocolate,
yes,
we get habituated too easily. So then it's 2 blocks, then 3 blocks, then 4 blocks.
It was that great book where the book was great, but her reading of the book was
terrible.
really problematic.
Anyway, today, what we're talking about in the principles segment is a book that goes back to 1985 by Neil Postman. It's called Amusing Ourselves to Death. And it's freely available if you have Spotify. It's hard to find in Audible, but Spotify, there's a version of it. And I had to listen to it. The crux of his story is this. There were two dystopian views of the world captured in literature. George Orwell and 1984 and Aldous Huxley and Brave New World. And what Neil Postman argues is this. He said, many of us, he's talking about himself back in the 70s, were very worried that George Orwell might be right, that the dystopian future is when we are oppressed by force, the double talk, all that sort of stuff, which, Donald Trump calling the Ministry of Peace, the Ministry of War, and all those sorts of things. And playing with words that just become plastic and meaningless, etc. And he said, that's actually not what's happening. What's happening in America is more of Aldous Huxley's view in Brave New World, in which everyone was given amusements, like anything they want, they could just enjoy themselves, and they weren't oppressed into becoming docile, subservient beings. They chose to, because it was lovely and comfortable. And so when you have TV, now it's streaming, so you can binge, and any moment can be filled with doom scrolling. This is way beyond his time, but it all applies. We are amusing ourselves to death because we're paying less and less attention to those core relationships around us.
There are two ways by which the spirit of a culture may be shriveled. In the first, the Orwellian, culture becomes a prison. In the second, the Huxleyan, culture becomes a burlesque. No one needs to be reminded that our world is now marred by many prison cultures whose structure Orwell described accurately in his parables. If one were to read both 1984 and Animal Farm, and then, for good measure, Arthur Koestler's Darkness at Noon, one would have a fairly precise blueprint of the machinery of thought control as it currently operates in scores of countries and on millions of people. Of course, Orwell was not the first to teach us about the spiritual devastations of tyranny. What is irreplaceable about his work is his insistence that it makes little difference if our wardens are inspired by right or left-wing ideologies. The gates of the prison are equally impenetrable, surveillance equally rigorous, icon worship equally pervasive. What Huxley teaches is that in the age of advanced technology, spiritual devastation is more likely to come from an enemy with a smiling face than from one whose countenance exudes suspicion and hate. In the Huxleyan prophecy, Big Brother does not watch us by his choice. We watch him by ours. There is no need for wardens or gates or ministries of truth. When a population becomes distracted by trivia, when cultural life is redefined as a perpetual round of entertainments, when serious public conversation becomes a form of baby talk, when, in short, a people become an audience and their public business a vaudeville act, then a nation finds itself at risk. Culture death is a clear possibility.
We'll ground this in some business insights in a moment. But David, what would you add to Postman and his amusing ourselves to death thesis?
That really, the fact he was writing this argument 20 years before the internet, 30 years before social media, and yet he absolutely grasped where we were heading. And that is, the problem wasn't going to be what, other people did to repress us. It's how, like in the rat experiments, where you let the rat keep having drugs, and the rat keeps pressing the button for the drugs until the rat gives itself so many drugs it dies.
Yes.
The rat goes, yeah, I love the buzz. We press the button. And that fundamentally the combination of internet pornography and social media, we are amusing ourselves to death. Even Aldous Huxley, with his marvelous imagination, only imagined kind of free, safe sex and a drug that didn't have terrible side effects, where you could go to work the next day. Even he didn't see it as the absolute destruction of human agency, meaning, and purposeful identity that we've actually, succumbed to.
So are we, as a society, the victims of our own success? I mean, we toil away in the field, figuratively, literally for some people, with the carrot that's dangled is we'll get some downtime to enjoy the dip in the pool, the movie, all that sort of thing. Well, we've got really good at making the movie everywhere. And it's easy just to satiate our desires. Easier.
Yeah. And in a way that if we go back to the wonderful, C.S. Lewis speech, where's the knowledge? Where's the beauty? Where's the art? Where's the curiosity? All the things that rise humans above the difficulty of being alive on planet Earth. Where's all that stuff gone in porn and social media?
And just last week, at the time of recording this, a US jury found that Google and Meta were liable for about $3 million US in damages in a landmark social media addiction lawsuit, where a 20-year-old woman accused the companies of causing her harm by deliberately designing addictive platforms. And I note that in one of the articles, someone from Meta mentioned, 16 hours a day using Instagram, I wouldn't call that addiction. I might call it problematic. This is the beast. These are the beasts, the people who are amusing us to death. It's there's a sickness to this part of society. And here in business, we make use of these tools because they're also communication tools. You and I have talked about this before. So how do we take what Postman sees for some agency for us and our businesses? What principles come to your mind that we can learn and apply from this?
I think the key thing is, why did you start your business? If you know why you started your business, it wasn't so that you could amuse yourself to death. And it probably wasn't to amuse someone to death. You probably wanted to start your business to solve people's problems or to give them an amazing experience that would be so uplifting that it would connect them to that sense of beauty or curiosity or knowledge or insight, to take them out of the ordinary in a way that isn't just amusement or distraction.
Which is fine, but I suppose our customers are humans too. We've got to get their attention.
We do. And it's totally what we need to do is use the tools, but use the tools to offer the things that C.S. Lewis valued, the things that Viktor Frankl valued. Use the tools to get people from amusement to something actually that adds some value to their day, makes them feel more engaged, makes them feel more connected, makes interacting with you and your company the highlight of their average day.
So Neil Postman himself, where he gets to at the end of his book is, if we stop and we have this awareness of the power of media, which today we'd also say social media and smartphone apps, it gives us a chance to resist. Do we get rid of it? He even said then, no, you just have to recognize the limits of depth that these things can go to. So in many ways, this old book, which is relevant today, marries with the advice we've been giving ourselves and anyone who'll listen, that yes, we have to wade in the wading pool of social media so that we can talk to our potential customers. But if we're there and we're not doing the crap, we're going a little bit harder to at least bring value, whether it's entertaining or instructional or helpful. At least we're fighting the good fight. We're doing something productive. We can sleep well. We can live with ourselves. And we're doing something to maintain a degree of sanity when it's just so easy to plonk in front of the couch and do the same old, and just fall for yet another scam where you pay $17 a month and have some AI tool make all your social media content for you that's just going to play regurgitation of the lowest common denominator over and over again, maybe go a bit titillating to get some cut through, and just leave us all, just like David trying to watch extended marathons of Billy Connolly, just exhausted.
I'd rather be exhausted doing something constructive.
Our 4 Ps Number 3, problems. These are the marketing challenges keeping you up at night. As Oscar said, we ask questions for the best reason possible. Simple curiosity, no hidden agenda, just genuine interest in what's actually happening.
In the problems segment, just one, there's probably a timely reminder. There was an article on Mashable about the 10 apps that are the worst at leaking our personal details. Now, I'll go so far as to say most of us won't know any of these apps. However, they do look surprisingly like a lot of apps that we might think we know of. Things like, I'm just getting a couple of names in front of me, things like Chat and Ask AI by Codeway, Chatbot AI. See, these are all sounding very similar to the normal things that we like ChatGPT. They're not ChatGPT. They sound like it. And suddenly in the App Store, there's free versus the paid versions. And so people are using them. But the downside is this, and that's why this is in the problem segment. All kinds of data is being harvested by these free apps. The actual data of what we're searching on and talking about, our chat history, which means you could be asking about medical conditions, relationship advice.
Financial advice.
Yes. You could also have gone to a Vietnamese restaurant before recording 2 podcasts, having handled chili with your fingers, and then needed to visit the bathroom afterwards, and you might want to chat about how you alleviate certain strong stinging sensations where they shouldn't be. Those sorts of things, David.
It wasn't sensational. Or so he tells me.
All this stuff is being left accessible in those apps.
It's training those apps.
It is. So this is only a very short segment. Please, what would be the advice?
Look at the privacy statement. Look at the terms of service. Literally look at them, because if it's in their favour, do you really want to be using it?
Now, this is what I use against most scammers these days. And I saw something the other day for someone was talking about the downside of blood pressure tablets, and there was this long piece went on and on and on, talking about how doctors will just peddle the pills, but there's these little fibrous things that build up in your blood system, and that's what really causes blood pressure. And lo and behold, there's a particular herb that you can take, or an extract, but only the one of this strength, which is certain anyway. I copy and paste these things these days, and I found Gemini to be very good at this. I put it in Gemini and say, look, can you please analyze this for me? Because this is sounding a little bit like hyperbole. And sure enough, it says, yes, here we go. The old doctors are bad and there's only one cure scenario. And it just rips it to shreds. Perhaps those terms and conditions you talk about, David, no one really reads them as a human, but you can copy and paste them.
And get Gemini to.
Get Gemini to assess them. What am I leaving myself open for?
Yep.
This is perhaps we can use this tool, this technology, to fight back. Because A, I just wouldn't go for unknown apps. I would stick with known quantities. But B, use a trusted AI source to check what you're handing over. And you might not think there's any problem with that, but it's when you least expect it. Who knows who they're selling this information for? And lo and behold, you've lost some money or your identity's being used somewhere. It's just not worth it. And many of these apps are the ones sneaking in AI stuff for free. Just be cautious. Exercise caution. It's like the old stranger danger ads, but it applies to apps in app stores.
Our 4 Ps. Number 4, perspicacity. Let's examine a campaign from the past and ask, would it work today? As Oscar Wilde believed, our one duty to history is to rewrite it. So let's see what we can learn.
David, how many hands does it take to handle a whopper?
two or stuff slides out the other side.
Correct. Now that's Hungry Jack's, aka Burger King.
Proper food when you're 8.
Proper food when you're 8 or when you have eaten. McDonald's. We're just going to touch base on McDonald's for this episode, of this segment of Perspicacity, and look at an ad and look at the CEO. I know lots of people have talked about this till the cows come home. Maybe not some of the cows.
They never made it home.
They never made it. But we had the McDonald's CEO, Chris Kempczinski. He posted a video of himself trying the new Big Arch burger. Didn't go well. I think that's fair to say. Mainly because he doesn't have a great presence on camera, and he kept referring to the burger as product.
And saying they're testing it in other markets. No one cares.
Yes, which makes it sound like we've tested it in places with lower standards and we got away with it there. Now we're ready. That's how we hear it.
Yes.
Anyway, let's have a listen to this. And you might have heard it by now, but it's worth listening to one more time. Just don't eat while you're listening.
Chris K here with, you've heard about it, here it is, the Big Arch. This is something that we have tested already. It's in Portugal, Germany, Canada. I love this product. It is so good. I'm going to do a tasting right now, but I'm going to eat this for my lunch, just so you know. So here we go. First, holy cow. God, that is a big burger. We've got a very unique kind of sesame poppy sort of bun on it. We've got 2 quarter-pound patties, a delicious Big Arch sauce, and of course some lettuce. So, there's so much going on with this. First of all, let's try to get this thing, I don't even know how to attack it. Got so much to it. Oh, there's also some crispy onions on here as well. I see those kind of coming out. All right, the moment of truth. That is so good. That's a big bite for a Big Arch. It's distinctively McDonald's. Only McDonald's could do this type of burger, but it also is unlike anything else on our menu. It's a delicious product. You know, you've got sort of the cheeses and the gooiness, but those crispy onions as well gives a nice texture. And of course, we've got the pickles. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of my lunch, but Big Arch, try it when you can get it.
Doesn't make me want to rush out and get one, David.
Doesn't make me want to be CEO of McDonald's either.
Yeah. Surely someone would be aware of this and just re-record it.
This seems like one of those terrible moments where they got the idea of authenticity, which is a very good thing, but you need to recognize that authenticity still needs to be engaging and purposeful. And that's neither engaging or purposeful, which is not a very helpful form of authenticity.
No, and there was much made of his approach to the mouthful that he took that looked like he was nibbling the smallest amount possible. He argues he wasn't, but it's not really what he argues.
No, again, brand perception is customer perception.
Now, the interesting thing is, this is perspicacity. We often look at TV commercials and then compare how they would work. There is actually a TV commercial for the Big Arch burger. Let's have a look at that one or listen.
Now make sure you're sitting down and make sure nothing can fall off your desk.
Okay, here we go.
Got Big McDonald's hunger? The new Big Arch is here.
As far as ads go for fast food, I kind of don't mind this. I mean, it's vacuous. You've got the people in the office, they're a bit hungry. Anyone who's worked in an office will feel that. You're not a free agent with your time. Unless you've snuck a muesli bar in or something, you kind of have to wait till it's your turn to go and eat. And someone across the room has got themselves a Big Arch and they're tucking into it. And then, of course, the tummy rumbles then the next person's tummy rumbles, and next the building
shakes, and then it's got ridiculous, and then we get that very typically strange end of advert British voice.
Yes. But the interesting thing I find here, unlike many of the other ads for the burgers where they bring pineapple back or they're putting sizzling bacon, this doesn't focus so much on the ingredients. This focuses on, this is big. This will fill you up when you're hungry. And you know what? I feel like there's more of an honesty here. Let's just get to the chase. If you're starving...
This will do the job.
You just take one of these, lay down, and don't make any videos for your company. That's basically the advice they're giving.
I think the idea was great, but they could have done so much more than the rumbling stomach thing. Like, the after effect of the burger could have made a great ad.
Or even the lead up to it be done a bit more, because I was starving because... Not that I'm saying you were late getting here, David. I wouldn't say that publicly.
I wasn't late getting here. I stood in the door because you were so busily working for about 4 minutes before I deliberately made a noise so you finally realised I was standing right in front of you.
Look, when you're really starving...
You don't pay attention to the rest of the world.
No, you don't.
No.
But I wonder if... there's so many different ways. I was going to say you can skin a cat, but probably not best to do that analogy when we're talking about fast food. You've got a burger, and they're shoving perhaps a second quarter-pounder burger into it, and extra this and extra that. There could have been a way to really emphasize how it's being built from the ground up, getting bigger and bigger, while someone's waiting. I'm hungry. How hungry? This hungry? I can go more. This.
Yeah, that would have been a much better ad, where you had the contrast between the person at the front saying how hungry they were, and some kid at the back going, I could add more meat. I could add more cheese.
Yeah.
Or more pickles.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been a really good ad.
Yes.
Instead of just an ad.
And it wasn't bad though. As far as a fast food ad
goes, it was a bit above midpoint.
Yes.
For a junk food ad.
Yeah. So our takeaway is there are some cases when your pre-planned communication might be better than authenticity when you're going for that. If you're going for authenticity, we don't have to publish everything we make. We still need to put a yard rule against it to make sure that it's met some standards of conveying enthusiasm, interest, perhaps some novelty, and something helpful.
Thanks for listening to Talking About Marketing. If you found this helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit. And if you're so inclined, leave a rating in your podcast app. Both help more than you think. Steve and David welcome your thoughts, which you can send to podcast@talkedaboutmarketing.com. That's podcast@talkedaboutmarketing.com. Want to continue the conversation beyond the podcast? You can book 20 minutes with Steve at talkedaboutmarketing.com. No cost, no obligation. And we'll leave the last word to Oscar Wilde. There's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that's not being talked about.